centuries of excavations tried to solve this mystery with no success. And even
oh my gosh, guys, have you tried this game? It's called Helix Jump. So it is really easy. Like, all you gotta do is move the platform so your balls can bounce. But oh my...
Welcome to a new Draw My Life video. Dean Arnold Coral, also known as Candyman, was a serial killer from the US who, along with 2 accomplices, kidnapped, tortured, and killed at least 28 young people between 1970 and 1973 in Houston, Texas. He was born on December 24, 1939 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, US. He was the first son of Mary Robinson and Arnold Edwin Coral. His mom was very protective, but not his dad, strict and tough with his 2 kids. He usually grounded them. Coral was a very shy boy who had a rough time interacting with others, though he always cared about the well-being of other people. His parents argued more and more frequently, so they ended up getting a divorce when he was 7. After this, his mom sold the family house, and after moving several times, they settled in Fire, a small town west of Texas. His mom married again, and with her new husband, she started a candy company in their garage. Dean was really involved in that business since day one, and he worked day and night after he got out of school every day. There, he was seen as a well-behaved, generous student who used to give candy to his friends. The family business kept growing and growing, so after Dean's graduation, the family decided to move again. The place they chose was Houston Heights, a low-income neighborhood in the city of Houston, where they opened a small store. During his teenage years, Dean never showed any kind of behavior. In fact, neighbors would say he was a model boy, kind, who gave candy to the kids in the neighborhood. However, it all changed in August 1964, when he was drafted into the U.S. Army. He soon showed his disdain for the service, and after 10 months, he asked for a leave of absence, with the excuse of taking care of the family business. He would be later on named the vice president of the business. When he went back to Houston, he restarted his work in the company, and he moved to an apartment right above the store. It was then that his personality changed drastically. He became irascible and gloomy. With the excuse of the candy, Coral started to spend more and more time with teenagers. In 1967, he became friends with David Brooks, who was 12 years old, one of the kids he gave candy to. The family nucleus of this young boy was totally unstructured, and Coral's attention soon made the kid look up to him as a father figure. Dean's dark instinct sparked in September 1970. Jeffrey Conan, an 18-year-old boy who hitchhiked on the road, became his first victim. Coral picked him up and took him home. On their way there, he gave him some candy, and once they were home, he hit him on the head, leaving him unconscious. After this, he tied him to a chair and tortured him for hours until he finally ended his agony by hitting his head until it was destroyed. Dean was surprised by Brooks in the middle of the slaughter. He managed to blackmail him and keep him silent about it, offering him in exchange a car with Chevrolet. The influence of the killer upon the kid was such that he even made a deal with him. He'd give him $200 for each kid he'd bring him. Brooks accepted, becoming automatically his accomplice. His mom's marriage failed again, and the family closed down the candy company. So Coral started on a job as an electrician. His mother moved again to Colorado this time, and even though they talked on the phone regularly, she never came back to visit her son. In 1971, David Brooks introduced Elmer Hanley to Dean Coral. He also came from a humble family with financial problems. Dean decided he could be a good accomplice, and he offered him again $200 for each kid he would bring to his apartment. Hanley's family was so poor that he accepted the offer without really knowing about Dean's intentions yet. Dean carried out most of his murders during the following 2 years. All his victims were teenagers, younger than 20 years old, who lived in the outskirts of Houston Heights. His modus operandi consisted in attracting his victims to his apartment with the help of his accomplices. After that, he would offer them drugs, and then he would strangle them or shoot them. So to torture them first, Coral became more and more cruel. He would cut their guns, break their as invading herds of cannibals. However, everything went wrong for him. August 8th, 1973, Haley had taken a boy to Cora's house, but he had also invited Ron to witness the pregnancy. She was 15 years old. Cora got furious with Haley, but he managed to calm him down. Two teenagers kept drinking and taking drugs to without punishment. When they woke up, they found themselves gagged and handcuffed. Cora tried to kill them.
What up, Cam?
But he refused to do so. Tired, this is water as he grabbed the boy's gun and tried to hit.
Cam, I'm streaming.
Finally, he shot his head, but the bullet didn't make it all the way to the cranium. He shot another 5 times until the killer collapsed and bled to death. It was Haley himself who called the police and confessed not only Dean Corll's murder, but also his and David Brooks' participation.
Cam?
Torture and death, more than 20.
Jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-up and sleigh.
Tap the App Store icon.
Hello?
Hello?
Cam, I'm streaming.
Let's do Arena Duo.
Are you Cam?
You probably all
You do not sound like Cam. What the is wrong with you?
That's what.
sinister dog actually existed and was
You know what, whatever.
This is his story. At the end of the 19th century, the artist, a wealthy people knew they weren't it was precisely one just woman charged with taking care of a little one in the family, rather than
This is a season.
found a servant to provide before she left, the woman gave her little 2 bottoms as eyes and human hair, which they say belonged to the kid himself. He
At first, but Pennywise wins her over in one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
People always make fun because of the way I look.
I love that Bill Skarsgård gets to do some emotional acting here instead of just the scary clown stuff.
I can blow that thing right away.
You could?
Oh, yes.
To play the role, originally made famous by Tim Curry, the producers auditioned 160-something people and chose carefully, knowing that the clown portrayal would set the tone of the film. In the end, the part went to the person with the most impressive audition, Bill Skarsgård. Skarsgård's depiction of the character took some time to figure out, and it wasn't until he was in full makeup, oh god, I said full makeup, and costume, that he was able to land on Pennywise's specific behavior. Pennywise's appearance. That initial scare, Skarsgård got along real well with them all. And he was always careful to make sure his young scene partners.
Why'd you jump?
His biggest fan on set may have been Jackson Robert Scott, who played Jordan, and who cried when he was initially kept from seeing Pennywise. Also, just gotta say, I never get tired of watching Bill Skarsgård in makeup acting like a normal dude. That's great. It really is. Pennywise's new friendship with Victor just can't overpower his hunger for children, so after luring her close enough, he turns into a scary clown and bites her in the face. Kills her below the bleachers. None of the adults overhead ever knowing a damn thing. And hey, let's pick up another kill for the count over at the psych ward, where Henry Bowers is now making it to the cage by killing people like this inmate here. Looks like the guy got his throat slit. Also kind of looks like that Joey dude from Friday.
Get me! Oh my god.
You don't see a confirmed kill before we cut to Henry breaking out and getting driven away by zombie hostages. legendary library where Ben was once leered at by a creepy librarian, and upstairs to his apartment. This motherfucker lives in the library like some literary Quasimodo. Mike gives Bill some water and shows him an artifact that he apparently stole from the fictional Shakapiwa tribe. Oh, and also, he just drugged Bill. So let's go on a magic carpet ride. This Shakapiwa backstory is an invention of the movies, and honestly, a little bit weird. I think the equivalent to involves the kids doing hallucinogens. I guess they replaced that. Oh, it's the story that Mike tells Bill is so terrific, full of crazy blue people fighting a legendary Pokemon. Or, sorry, that's another form of it. Vision shows Bill the ritual of Chud, which is not a traditional sermon of cannibal humanoid underground dwellers. Instead, it's a book that involves, let's see here. Fighting its tongue. I can't be right. Mike and Bill head back to the town's inn and stop the other losers from leaving. With Bill backing Mike now, they agree that it's time to shut up or shut up. And since the ritual of Chud is dependent on memory or something, they have to start back at their absolute favorite place of childhood. Clubhouse. Yeah, the clubhouse. Remember it from the first movie? All that time they spent in the clubhouse? Oh, well, that's okay. They filmed new footage for us. Of course, filming new footage with kids a couple years later meant some of them looked pretty different. So for this and some other flashback scenes, a few of the kids had to be digitally de-aged. I think it was mainly Jeremy Ray Taylor as Ben, Jack Dylan Grazer as Eddie, and definitely Finn Wolfhard as Richie. It's not super noticeable, unless maybe you do some side-by-sides with the first movie. But I guess sometimes their dubbed-over lines sound a little weird.
Hey, Rich, your 10 minutes are up.
What are you talking about?
The hammer, 10 minutes each was the rule.
According to Andy Muschietti, their physical appearance wasn't the only thing that required adjusting either.
Your behavior changes from 12 to 15, and I had to remind them that they were not 15 in the fiction, they were 12. They would just come and naturally do a scene. I would say, okay, now give me the 12-year-old version of that.
I actually really love that the actors, just like the characters in the movie, had to relive their past in order to finish telling the story. That's what we call thematic resonance. Flashback in the super iconic clubhouse also reminds us all that Stanley Uris fucking loved his shower caps. Man, he's always cleaning stuff with that shower cap on, right? No? Not at all in the first movie? Oh well. The adult losers still say that this dirty shower cap right here is a suitable emotional stand-in for their dead, stuffy friend. It's one of 7 items. If they want to be Elmer Chud, 7 items for the 7 of them, since each must sacrifice an artifact from their past. To find them, they have to split up, since they had separated 27 years ago after that fight they had stemming from their first Neibold House adventure. This kicks off a series of fetch quests known as the Walking Shoes, wherein each loser has to revisit their past and find their tokens. Well, all of them but mine. Bev is up first. She visits her childhood apartment to find an elderly woman by the name of Mrs. Kirsch living there. Kirsch tells Bev that her father passed away some time ago. But note that happened between them. It's kind of outside the story, so I'm not going to count it in this movie, and I'll once again note that I was right not to include him the first time. He didn't die from that toilet tank lid. Bev steps inside Mrs. Kirsch's existence, and while it's being prepared, she goes to her old room and cracks open a piece of that molding. Roach it! Inside the wall, she finds an old stash of cigarettes and the postcard poem given to her by Ben. January effort. My heart burns there too. Oh, that's nice. Do you like poetry, Mrs. Kirsch? Oh, never mind, she gone. Bev has a creepy spot of tea with Mrs. Kirsch in a scene that was basically released as a trailer. Also, Chelsea and I got to reenact this scene with actor Joan Gregson at a Warner Brothers event.
Are you Daddy's little girl too? Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
She was both lovely and creepy, and she even did the unnerving stare at me. It was great. Eventually, Mrs. Kirsch de-rose and turns into a big naked monster. Rah, rah, rah. I'm not a big fan of the continued use of CG monsters in these movies, but I will say I like those neck mounts. Before Bev leaves, she sees Pennywise in its human form without the clown makeup on. It's more good stuff from Skarsgård as he tells Bev it's useless to fight it. She finally runs out. Segment ends. Damn, we got how many more of these things? On to Richie. Finds his token in the old abandoned movie theater. Turns out his token is a token. Who'da fucking? He has a flashback to a time when he almost made a new friend, until the kid was scared away by Richie's overeagerness and the fact that his cousin was Henry Bowers, who just walked in with his bully buds, Belch and Vic. Since this is the only time we see him, I just want to mention that the actors who play the bullies are the nicest fucking dudes. Nick Hamilton and Jake Sim especially are super friendly and down to earth. And I love how on the set of the first film, just like how Skarsgård did, they always made sure the actors playing the losers were comfortable and felt safe after each take. Much nicer than their characters, who call Richie a gay slur until he runs away. In the Dairy Town Square, young Richie was then yelled at and chased by an animated Paul Bunyan statue, which might be my favorite special effect in the film. Young Richie was able to will the scary monster away, but old Richie can't stop himself from seeing Pennywise atop the lumberjack. And this balloon-floating bastard says he knows something private about Richie.
I know your secret, your dirty little secret.
I wish his secret had been set up in the first film, but before we can think too much about it, Richie runs away and leaves Pennywise's face to melt in peace. Bill's lonely travels take him to a pawn shop where his old bike Silver is on display in the window. To get the bike, he has to haggle with the owner, who's played by none other than Stephen King himself. Andy Muschietti just asked King if he wanted to do a cameo, and King agreed to do it despite some reservations about his own thespian abilities.
I'm not much of an actor.
Hey, don't count yourself short, Steve. Jordy Verrill's a goddamn treasure. Although his cameo may pull people out of the movie a bit, it is pretty funny. In the end, King was happy with his performance.
I am now in my mind writing my Oscar acceptance speech.
Fleeces Bill for the fight, since he's a big fancy writer, and even pokes fun at himself when he gives Bill some book feedback.
I didn't like the ending.
With Silver properly saddled, Bill pedals his heart out all the way to the sewer entrance where his little brother Georgie was killed. In a flashback, he remembers a time when Pennywise's disembodied voice blamed him for Georgie's death, touching on a guilt that was established in the first movie, so that one rings true. Adult Bill sees in the sewer a paper boat in his brother's hands. But then there's another hand, and then a bunch of tiny baby hands, and now they're all getting handsy with Bill. Ew! Could someone please give this guy a hand with all this? He gets away with his arm intact, and the paper boat in his hand, only to find that kid from the Jade Orient staring at him. Bill warns the little boy to stay away from the sewer, and when the kid mentions hearing clown voices in his tough drain, well, boy, oh boy, does that set Billy off. Yo, dude, chill. You don't know this kid.
Tell me you understand.
I understand you about to get arrested there, Bill. Better let that kid go and not have such a cowman. Ben's vignette sees him go to the high school where he once took a summer class in a room with a turtle on the desk. And if you got excited about seeing a turtle, knowing how it ties into the novel, you're not the only one.
Oh, dude, are we gonna see a turtle in this movie? In this game?
Dude, there's a turtle scene in this.
It's a sign.
Ben relives a time when he was alone in the classroom with Beverly, who he's had a crush on since first sight. He finally went for it there, and things didn't exactly go well.
Oh my god. You actually thought it could like someone as fat and gross and disgusting like you?
Well, that's not nice. Come on, quit playing with the kid, Bev. Oh, I can see how that might be a little difficult for you. It's kind of ridiculous, but I like scary players best. Anyway, Ben's token is his yearbook page, signed by Bev, which is actually something he's always held on to, as we saw in his introductory scene. Must make it pretty difficult for him then, when back at the inn, Bev tells him she thinks Bill wrote the postcard poem for him. Before Ben can correct her, Richie gets back and says that he's leaving. While Ben tends to Richie, we get Eddie's vignette, which includes a background cameo by director Andy Muschietti as Eddie goes to pick up a inhaler from his pharmacist, Dr. So-and-so. He has the most monster in a flashback that shows him in the basement of the pharmacy. He heard his mom yelling down there, found her tied to a stretcher with a chained-up being slowly coming towards her. Oh my god, is that a ghost? No, it's the Nebold House leper who scared Eddie in the first movie. It scares him again so much that he abandons his mom and lets the monster French kiss her. Ew! Now, as an adult, Eddie's down in the basement again, ready to see if his mom's still stuck on that stretcher. She's not, but the leper's still there. And after it grabs Eddie by the face, this happens. Nah, man, I don't have any idea what that was. And honestly, I feel like it's one of a few movies that breaks the tension in a bad way. I will say, they had an impressive comic book, though. This is not gonna stop. I was like a puppet in him and six of his friends. Eddie gets back to the inn, followed by Bill, who has a lovey-dovey moment with Beth. First, they remember their childhood kiss, and then they reenact it. Bill, you got a white, dude. Guess Whitesler, remember? Fuck you, Bill. Before the infidelity can continue, Bill and Bev are skateboarding here with cool anti-gravity blood effects.